House in Baltimore, hockey, a brand new kitten that we're in love with around here. And I skipped the trip out to Oakland last week, sort of famously on the internet, but I will not be skipping this one this weekend. It is my birthday weekend. I'm hoping to finish some cake and polish off the Bears. This guy is covering the Bears, does all things Bears for the Chicago Sun-Times. You can follow his journey out at the Sun-Times as well as out on Twitter where he has podcasts and all things Bears. He is Patrick Finley. That's Finley, just like our old outfielder around here. We welcome him in for his maiden voyage at WNST. Dude, I already like you, man. There's a picture of you and a San Diego chicken on the front of your Twitter at some minor league ballpark. So that's you and I are already old friends, man.
I was going to say I prefer to think of Steve Finley as a former Padre more than a former Oriole, but okay, I'll let it go.
Hey, Finley was here as part of the Why Not 89 Orioles. He shall forever be an Oriole, but that's okay. I mean, at least we can mix our baseball references here. How about this Bears team, dude? I mean, I'm out scouting on Monday night. Like, all these baseball games going on. We had a hockey game going on. We're trying to see if Ovechkin's going to score 5 goals in a game. And I couldn't take my eyes off Bears-Vikings. We play them the next 2 weeks. And there was a little bit of a preview. And, I think this kid might be a good quarterback at some point. But, boy, the Bears look sort of morbid for talent right now. They don't look like a good football team in lots of ways outside of, whether it was Cutler or Trubisky or Glennon as the quarterback. They look like they're only going to win 3 or 4 games because they're not very good, man.
Yeah, they haven't surrounded Trubisky or Glennon before him with talent on offense. When you look at their receivers, they lost their 2 starting receivers before week 2 of the regular season, Cam Meredith and Kevin White. They didn't do a whole lot to bring in new receiver talent. You look at Kendall Wright. He, is an also-ran kind of guy. Marcus Wheaton, they gave a lot of money to. He has 1 catch this season. So the skill position-wise, on the outside, they're really not doing their quarterback any favors regardless of who it is. What they want to do is run the ball, and with Mitch Trubisky, they'll run a lot more play action. But you're right. A lot has to go right for the Bears to win games, and that has not happened this season.
I mean, from an optimistic standpoint, right? I mean, the quarterback thing is that piece. And, Brian Billick's my partner here on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation. And he confided in me years later after the Ravens won the Super Bowl when I wrote a book on the team that, it probably wasn't a bad idea that if they were going to draft Joe Flacco, that they would marry a new coach to a new quarterback. Clearly that hasn't happened there, and I looked at John Fox, who, by the way, looks wonderful, lost some weight, and I like Foxy a lot. But I don't know that he's going to survive this. I mean, is he?
No, that's a great question. When Ryan Pace traded up to draft Trubisky in April, he made it clear that his timeline was different than John Fox's. Fox needs to win games this season, and the Bears went out and got him somebody who, let's face it, even in a best-case scenario, is probably going to be a plus player next year rather than this year. And that was a big blow for somebody who needs to win games. You look around at all the quarterbacks drafted in the top 2 the last couple of years. Most of them are playing for their second head coach. A lot of them had their head coaches replaced by their offensive coordinators. But I don't know that the Bears would go in that direction. I think they need to show promise. They need to show improvement. The fastest way to do that is for Trubisky to figure this out quickly. If he doesn't, I don't think Fox has much of an argument to keep his job beyond this season. It's early, but it's not trending the right way.
You mentioned Wheaton running around, and the penalty cost the team more than anything that is going to happen in the way of an explosive play. I saw some frustration, but I also saw maybe even some hope from the fan base to come out and rattle the cages and see the new quarterback, see the new circus that's come to town after the Cutler thing and the little Glennon experiment. I saw some signs of life from that kid, and I'm looking back and saying, now why wasn't he playing 5 weeks? Maybe because it's a difference between winning 4 games or 5 or 3 or 5 or whatever it would be. But it seems to me that he's going to be the guy, and I don't know how he's going to play this week. But I did see some basic good quarterback things he did before the end of the game with the INT.
Yeah, and some of the more impressive things he did came back because of penalty. You mentioned the hold on Wheaton. That was a 41-yard touchdown run by Jordan Howard that came back. He had a 23-yard completion that got the Bears down to the 9 that came back because of a hold on the center. His ability to throw on the run with accuracy, his ability to use his speed is a lot different than what Glennon did. As for why he didn't play sooner, the Bears' plan all along was to have him sit as long as possible. They thought that he would be able to learn from the bench, and they didn't want to, risk, this thing turning into a disaster. I think it's clear after last night that Trubisky doesn't think that the game is too big for him, and that's good. This is something he can build on. But, in an ideal world, they thought Mike Glennon would be a league average quarterback, and it didn't take long to figure out that they were wrong about that, and wrong by a wide margin.
Well, I mean, at what point was he ever, right? I mean, I guess on track record alone, when guys been around that long, they're passed around like a hot potato to some degree, and you spend all this money and all this promise and all this thought on the kid, then the kid comes in there and actually runs around and plays well. I mean, well enough. I'm not going to say, but I saw signs of life first time out, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, he had a passer rating of 60, so he wasn't good.
Fair enough.
But he was exciting. And look at the Bears. Their greatest quarterback, the greatest quarterback they've ever had, and this is a team that has retired more numbers and has more Hall of Famers than anybody in the NFL. Sid Luckman's the greatest quarterback they've ever had. Sid Luckman retired in 1950. It is not often that Bears fans have something exciting going on under center. I mean, Jay Cutler certainly was fun at times. Jim McMahon certainly was fun at times, but nobody thinks of them as generational talents. Trubisky might be, and just the fact that there's that possibility gives fans reasons to be excited, and it might give them reasons to watch the rest of this season because, as we've talked about, wins and losses wise, it could be a slog the next 11 games.
As an old Raven guy around here, I saw, big Pernell McPhee running around out there trying to chase the quarterback on Monday night, and we've lost a lot of those kind of guys here. Ozzie gets a lot of grief about draft picks and because of Matt Elam and Arthur Brown, and now Perryman really hasn't, panned out to become a star player. But he also drafted, Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and John Ogden and all those guys. He's been around for 22 years. But, a guy like McPhee goes out the side door. He wasn't worth $8 or $9 million a year around here to chase the quarterback at that time where the team was. But he's a guy that snuck out the side door. He certainly would have made this football team better here the last couple of years had they had the money. He's been an okay signing there amidst a storm of, let's be honest, bad football, right?
Right. Well, and let's keep in mind, from afar, one of the good things that the Ravens GM does is, you're rarely burned by the guys he lets walk away. The success rate
There's
is
no
not
doubt
very
about
high.
that, dude. But Ray Lewis made a lot of linebackers really rich for 15 years, leaving here, all to go somewhere, get a contract, and quite frankly, never to be heard from again, like Jamie Sharp or Ed Hartwell. He's going to have a list,
Well, sure. And McPhee, in the first half of the first year he was with the Bears, he was explosive. He was exactly what they had signed up for in terms of versatility, the ability to get to the quarterback. And then he had a knee injury, and he kind of hasn't been able to shake it in the year and a half since. He's got, he's lost weight because his knees couldn't take him, couldn't hold his weight at his old frame. So he's lost some weight. This is something he's going to have to monitor the rest of his career. And quite frankly, the Bears have talked, the last couple of weeks about him being on a snap count, about not wanting to risk running him out there too often. But then Willie Young got hurt. It forces McPhee into action and probably playing more snaps than the Bears want him to at this point in his career.
Saw some flashes from Floyd and Hicks. Who's the Bears' best player right now, as you see it, Patrick?
Akeem Hicks. Akeem Hicks is a Pro Bowler, I think. Right now, he signed a big extension with them on the eve of the season this year. Usually, or sometimes you see guys do that, and they're not quite the same. But Hicks has been absolutely dominant from defensive end. He's a guy who's, 320, 330 pounds, can run sideline to sideline. Just a really impressive physical guy. Leonard Floyd had his best game on Monday night. He had 2 sacks. One of them was a safety. One of my favorite stats is that only one man has recorded a safety for the Bears in the last 6 years, and it's Leonard Floyd, and he's done it twice. He is a pass rush weapon unlike anything that they have. He's only 240, 250 pounds. He kind of looks like a shooting guard walking in the room, but he's fast. In the way the game is played nowadays, he is a really good fit for chasing the Aaron Rodgers.
Dude, he reminds me of Doomerville a little bit, sort of, that compact. Because you stand next to Doomerville, you'd be like, this guy's not a linebacker. He's got to be a safety, right? I mean, because he wasn't that big.
Right, yeah. And I think Floyd might be a little taller, but yeah, no, you're right. And you look at him, and there's nothing really physically imposing about him, but boy, is he fast. And as he learns the little tricks of the trade in terms of, learning how to bull rush, learning how to go inside instead of outside, he's only going to get better. I think those two guys are far and away the Bears' best players. Jordan Howard was second in the league in rushing last year. I'm not sure that that's going to happen again this year. I think he's on pace for only about 1,000 yards. But, he's in that conversation somewhere. And then Tariq Cohen, he's 5'6", this little scat back running back who they've had a lot of success with Just imagine if the Bears had a receiver or two, they might actually be able to deploy Cohen the way that most teams would. As it is now that, he's a pass catcher, he's a third down back, he's kind of all over the place. And it'd be fun to watch him just kind of be able to be used more like Tyreek Hill than he is like the focal point of their passing offense.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that, and I guess the offseason, when you're writing about the team, by the way, Patrick Finley joining us here from the Chicago Sun-Times. You can find him at Sun-Times as well as at Patrick Finley out on Twitter, along with the San Diego Chicken on his avatar as well. The whole idea was they were going to run the ball, right? Play a veteran quarterback, not screw up, and try to get after the quarterback and be disruptive. Play better defense, which is more up Fox's alley to begin with. How much of this has actually worked? And obviously, Pittsburgh taking a facer against Jacksonville, and Roethlisberger talking about being washed up himself. He certainly looked like a shell of himself, and I think we're all wondering how in the world the Bears beat the Steelers, right?
Yeah, the Steelers certainly seemed better 2 weeks ago than they do today. Yeah, the formula is not a bad one. You look at the Bears front seven, that's the strong suit of their team. They're one of the best rush defenses in the league, even after giving up a 57 or so yard touchdown to McKinnon on Monday night. But yeah, I mean, they want to win the game 21-20. They want to have the ball last and march and kick a field goal. That is kind of the game plan that they have. And it makes sense where it went sideways with Mike Glennon was that he would turn the ball over early and often. Emphasis on the early. If you remember the Packers game on Thursday night, he fumbled on the first play from scrimmage. The Bears were down 14-0 after running one offensive play. Their offense is not built to play catch-up. Trubisky did a little bit of that on Monday night. He had a fumble, I believe, in the second quarter, and then that interception in the fourth that really gave the game away. He should have just thrown the ball away and lived to fight another day, but that's what happens when you're playing a rookie quarterback, and, he will make plays, but he will make mistakes too, and the Bears can only hope that he doesn't make this mistake again.
Patrick Finley joining us here from Chicago. And, of course, you got a chance to watch the Vikings, and we're going to see the Lions later on coming here. We have to go out to Green Bay, which looked like one of the tougher. What do you make of the rest of this division at this point? I mean, clearly Green Bay has stepped up a little bit, and they have the difference maker. They have the quarterback who can actually do it, as opposed to Detroit, where they have a guy where they think they can do it, right? And Minnesota, where it's pretty clear that one guy might be able to do it, but he couldn't play on Monday night, certainly couldn't play effectively. But I'm not going to, urinate on Case Keenum. He came out of a tree and beat us in Houston a couple of years ago. So I will always have respect for Case Keenum. But, yet again, Case Keenum comes out, wins a football game in the National Football League on Monday night, right?
Yeah, and he, I'm not a slave to passer rating, but his passer rating was 110. I mean, that's a pretty great performance by any measure. You look at the Vikings, 3 weeks from now, who knows who their quarterback's going to be? I mean, Teddy Bridgewater could come off of IR. You have Bradford, who looked horrible on Monday night.
Well, he didn't look healthy, right? I mean, he right. Looks like a shell, right?
Yeah, but this is somebody who didn't have structural damage on that knee from week one. He essentially had sat out for 4 weeks because of pain, not because of instability. And he, and Lord knows when he'll be able to go out there again. So that's a team that, you could make a case for 3 different starting quarterbacks in week 10, probably. The Packers are the Packers, and as long as they have Aaron Rodgers, he's going to continue to make a lot of other guys on his team look really, really good. It's boring around here, but, you got to pick the Packers to win the division, rain or shine, until Aaron Rodgers isn't playing anymore. And as for the Lions, their performance at home against the Panthers, I thought was pretty discouraging for them. If they're really as good as they think they are, I think that's a game they need to win. And maybe the Panthers are better than we all thought. Maybe we got caught up in the Cam Newton thing a little bit. But, I mean, a home game like that, I thought that was a great opportunity for the Lions to declare themselves one of the better teams in the NFC, and they certainly did not.
Dude, you cover the Bears, I cover the Ravens. I mean, this time last week, I thought the Ravens were dead in the water just because they looked so horrific week to week from Wembley to, a major game at home against the Steelers where you have that kind of letdown. Now they go out to Oakland, and I swear, watching a game Monday night, I turned to my wife in the third quarter, and I'm like, well, I mean, the score's 3-2, right? I mean, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, well, there's no reason the Ravens can't play sloppy and even poor football and at least stay in a game with these couple of teams, especially if Case Keenum's going to be the quarterback. It is amazing how the wind blows and optimism changes. Make a case for the Bears this week to go on the road as a 1-4 team and beat the Ravens this week.
If the Bears can punt instead of throw interceptions, their defense has done a fantastic job during the course of the season in holding teams to field goals on long fields. You look at the touchdowns they give up, they're usually on short fields. It's usually the fault of the quarterback. If Trubisky can turn around, hand the ball off, and keep it a couple of times to keep that play-action game, to keep that weak side defensive end home, that weak side outside linebacker home, they have a chance to win a 21-20 game.
By the way, that was an epic explanation. I mean, I've been doing radio 26 years now. I've had a million guests. I have never, ever had a guest ever say, if they punt more often instead, we call we call those around here. We call those Kyle Bowler interceptions. Flacco threw one in week 2, and my partner Luke Jones out of Baltimore, Luke, tweeted that was a Kyle Bowler punt, which is an interception from about your 35 that lands somewhere between the 15 and the 5 on the other end. When your best plan is to punt and put your defense on the field, hey, we won a Super Bowl like that. No one.
I was going to say this. I'm thinking back to Rick Neuheisel from my old Pac-12 days. I think he used to say every once in a while that punting was winning, and I'm not sure I'll believe that wholeheartedly. But if the Bears just aren't a negative in the turnover game, which is what they've been more or less all season, they have a chance because I think their defense travels well despite what you saw in Green Bay. And if their offense can just hand the ball off and keep it simple and not make mistakes, it'll be a game in the fourth quarter. And at that point, I mean, I don't think this league is very good. I think there are only 4 or 5 teams that I would trust late in the game. And, if there's everybody else, then the Bears theoretically have as good a chance as anybody with 6 minutes to play in the game close. That's about the best argument I could make for them winning the game, but it's something.
I'm worried about this Cohen kid, and I think I should be because we haven't tackled well around here, certainly a point of contact. First guy on the play is having trouble wrapping guys up. We had Danny Woodhead running around here for about, I swear to God, a minute and a half. I mean, like he had 3 first downs on the first drive in Cincinnati, got hurt at the 5-yard line. We're probably never going to hear from him again. And then I see this guy that does those kinds of things and think, man, we could just borrow him around here for the next couple weeks. We might win 10 or 11 games this year.
Yeah, and you know what? Cohen, played for North Carolina A&T. He was recruited by one team out of high school, and that was North Carolina A&T, and it's because he's, got Darren Sproles' size on a good day. But he is dynamic. He's exciting. The thing is, he's a great complementary player, and the Bears need more regular players to put around him so you don't have to lean on Cohen so much. I think we'll see a lot of Jordan Howard. We have all season. But, beyond that, there's just nobody at receiver that scares you. And maybe Zach Miller at tight end does. Everybody else is just either too old or too young, and that's a problem with the rookie quarterback.
Great to have visited with you. Patrick Finley is out at the Sun-Times in Chicago, Illinois, covering all things the Bears. You can also follow him at Patrick Finley on Twitter, along with the San Diego Chicken. Really appreciate the visit, man. Thanks for making some time for us, Pat.
Hey, anytime.
You got it, Patrick Finley out there in the Chicagoland area. He'll be coming here, and no tourist crab cakes for you when you're in town, Patrick Finley. We'll make sure you get out to Costa, someplace good out there, and get yourself something local when you're in. The Bayou Toyota Audio Vault is there 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from wherever you happen to be. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox free of charge each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Last but never least, breaking news does happen anytime, anywhere, injury reports and roster moves and stuff like that before the game. You want to be on the WNST tech service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. It is free and easy and always there for you. And Dennis is always there on Thursday from 3 until 5 driving you home. It is the SSV on WNST. He'll get you ready for the Bears coming to town this weekend. I'm going to be getting you ready for playoff baseball all weekend. I've been talking some hockey. Terps have Northwestern coming in at 3:30 on Saturday. And we're getting ready for college basketball season. Proudly the new home of Coppin State basketball here, as well as the Juan Dixon Show. You'll be hearing Juan and I chat about basketball once a week here on WNST. We're out on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.